Hey guys, it's George Ellis from Esports today. I'm joined by G2 Esports jungler Jankos.
Hello.
He's joining me following the victory today against Vitality. So let's get straight into it, Jankos. I know it's very easy to pick on mistakes when teams make them throughout the split, and it's even easier when you go from being extremely dominant in every game you play last split to sort of making mistakes this split, right? But there were signs of G2's old dominance today. I think that's fair to say against Vitality. So since this isn't the same G2 that we saw earlier this split, what have you changed?
Well, I just do think that G2 performs better under pressure, on top of us having more time to prepare for this week. When we started playing the game, week one, we didn't have a lot of time to prep before season started because we were just kind of chilling, right? We wanted to take it easy. Even though there was no Messiah, we didn't really want to get burnt out before Worlds. And then, there was the accident with Luca, and then we played with Pinoy, then we came back from having a week and a half off. So again, we didn't really scream for week 5 with week 6. So right now, we are getting back into it. Of course, we are still not at the level we want to be in playoffs, but we hope to clutch the regular season, get into playoffs, and show how good or how good we can be or how good we were in the past season.
So I wanted to actually question you on this because from speaking to other pros, some of them, for example, I just spoke to a Humanoid who I was speaking to earlier. He stood by the fact that you guys are still the scariest team to come up against. Obviously, this is a reference to your decorated history, but does this sort of add some extra pressure when you come up against these teams?
I think that teams really want to win against us, and it doesn't matter if we have 7 losses or 8 losses. I just think that teams, since we have been so dominant in Europe, like you mentioned, our history is very good. We won past 3 previous splits with this roster. I feel like teams really, really want to show dominance against us, and even Rogue wanted to cheese so that they get ahead in the early game, so that they can win because they actually never won against us. Tomorrow we are playing Fnatic. Not really sure about that matchup, but I'm pretty sure Fnatic will try their hardest and will perform better than usual since they always want to win against us. What I also believe in is that teams don't want to see us in playoffs. Of course, if there's any chances of G2 not going to playoffs, not going to Worlds, that's very good for all the European teams because, of course, who cares about Worlds, right? But if G2 is not in playoffs, then one of them can win.
Yeah.
One of them can finally win a title. So what we want to do, what we are aiming for, of course, get into the playoffs and again win the split. But it's still a far away road because we have 4 games left, and if we lose all of them, we are not in playoffs. If we lose 2 of them, there's a high chance we are not in playoffs. So we have to aim to win every single one of them. We have to aim into get into playoffs with the best seed possible, and then picking up from there.
Yeah, exactly. I think another thing that I wanted to sort of hone in on, and I think it's important to note, was your individual performances, right? This split, some could argue, hasn't been up to par as it was in spring. Obviously, you were incredible in spring. Do you believe there is something to prove from this point onwards to show people that you are still the best, if not one of the best junglers in the LEC?
Of course, I'm very unhappy with my performances throughout the summer split, but I also don't think that. What really matters is my team, right? If my team still trusts me, I don't really care what people think about me because I can still prove to them in playoffs that I'm the best. And I don't think I was the best performing jungler in the split for sure, right? So I don't think I'm currently the best. Going by that logic, but I can be, or I will be in playoffs,
Exactly.
or even for the next week or this week. So I'm not really scared of the future. I'm just trying to focus on the present, and I'm trying to focus on myself and on my team so that we play better, so that I play better, so that I'm more confident on certain champions, and so that we can get playoffs, because it was never a case in G2 Esports that we were struggling to get to playoffs. Ever since I joined the team 3 years ago, week 7, week 8, week 9 even, we always were kind of chilling. We always knew we would be in playoffs and we can focus on going from there. But right now we actually have to sweat really, really hard at the end of season. And that kind of makes things very exciting for us as well, because normally we just don't care by the end of season, but right now we actually have to care and we have to try hard. I just wish we would be slightly less exciting. Maybe if we had one more win and we would be like 8-6 right now, that kind of excitement would be enough for me. But since we have so many losses, I think there's too much excitement.
So, going from that, obviously, regarding this sort of exciting, fun comps, I guess you could say that you could actually bring out. But I think that's a bit too far ahead in the future. If we look at this comp today, obviously the Gnar, I believe the Gnar was blind, and then the Lee Sin B5, if I'm not mistaken. What was your sort of philosophy going into this game with these two champions?
Well, I don't really think we were necessarily aiming to pick those two champs before, 4-5. We just agreed that these are probably the best champs we can pick, or we can blind pick, or we can, I mean, not of course blind pick, Lee Sin picking into set, but
Hmm.
we just feel like these two champs will fill their roles well. Nar will most likely be a save lane as a blind pick, and Lee Sin is just a good jungle that can pressure early game, and that's what we are aiming to do. We had Zoe, Kalista, Nautilus in first three picks, so we wanted to, of course, snowball. We wanted to make sure we get all the drakes so that if just in case they scale better into late game, we can still win by Dragon Soul. And this is what happened. I think the mid fight that they engaged, if they would not be like 5-6 gold K gold behind, I think that fight could have been harder or maybe even lost. And if they would get a Drake and start snowballing the game towards their side, I think that would be very, very difficult to come back from. But since we got really ahead in the early game, we played them up well. And we got all the Drakes, and then after we won that fight, we got Dragon Soul. It was kind of clear to us that we'll end up winning this game. So I'm pretty happy with all the performances of my teammates and myself. I think communication in this game is very clear. I think everyone knew what to do, and I think everyone knew what we are aiming to do. Everyone knew what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
Anyway, English is
I
hard.
got you.
But,
It's
yeah,
okay. Don't worry.
I'm happy. I'm happy.
It's all right. It's tough for some of us as well. Don't worry. Anyway, so if I wanted to sort of actually focus on this Lee Sin, right? Obviously, the pick today. I believe he was actually nerfed on 10.15, if I'm not mistaken, with his W cooldown being increased. I think that was on this patch, right? So you locked him in today, and obviously he is still very, oppressive in certain situations, especially into the set, like you mentioned. Do you feel like he could potentially be shifted out eventually? Considering some people suggested he's kind of useless sometimes, and he's sometimes very oppressive, right? Do you think he could be shifted out of the meta eventually, or will he always be present even though he has got these nerfs?
Well, I think he will most likely still stay present. I don't think that the W 1 second nerf will mean much. Of course, your clear is slightly worse now, and you don't farm jungle as fast, right? And maybe in teamfights sometimes you can get caught easier if they force your ward hop instead of a human hop or like a champion hop. But since the champion allows you to make so many plays, and in games where there's a lot of jungle bans, and you just want something that can pressure early game and be very mobile in team fights, you don't really get caught. You can still do stuff with geeks. So definitely there are champions that can do a better job at certain aspects of the game, but I think Lee Sin is very versatile, and that just makes him good in every meta. And I think he will probably stay in the meta right now as well.
Mm-hmm. So if we sort of talk about these main talking points, going into the split, I think it's important to note the role swap, right? Regarding the perks and caps role swap. Have either of these players particularly excelled in your opinion from these, like individually from this change?
I mean, I think that Caps knows more about bot lane right now, and of course Luca already played mid lane. But I think both of them are just more aware of each other's role, and they are willing to sacrifice themselves for the other one because they know how difficult it is to play mid lane sometimes, bot lane sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it changed much from, let's say, last year to this year, but maybe for them they would think. But I think we are like kind of the same. Doesn't matter which one is playing which role.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've been dying to ask this question, right? And I know it's obviously regarding these buffs. I wanted to bring it up. The Sejuani, right? The classic pick. She got a buff, and we did see her in the LEC, right? We actually saw her in I believe was it the Mad Lions game? Or the game before the Mad Lions game. We did see her, right? Will she eventually be on a G2 comp this season?
Well, from what I'm aware of, I think some people may already play it. I do think she could be good in certain positions because she's a tank, and there's a lot of tank jungle being played right now. Of course, you want the bot lane, mid lane to carry, so you play, a lot of Set, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And Volibear, of course, is permabanned because he's a tank, but also he has so much damage,
Yeah.
I know he has like highest damage and so tanky. So I don't really know about that champion. Probably should get nerfed.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, if it's a good champion, of course I'll play it. If it fits comps or if it just seems good, I will play it. I want to get to playoffs. I want to win playoffs. I want to get to worlds, win worlds. So if that means playing Sejuani, then so be it, right? Maybe it's a big sacrifice on my side, but so be it.
So anyway, to sort of wrap up, right? Looking forward to the rest of the season. I believe you come up against Fnatic and Misfits. Two very tough games, especially if you consider the rivalry you guys have with Fnatic. But if we sort of hone on this team, right? They've also been struggling this split. Well, relatively. Is there anything you feel, or that you think is exploitable on this iteration of Fnatic?
It's very hard to say. I mean, I think the most exploitable thing about Fnatic is their drafts. It's most of the time it's very easy to say what they will go for in the draft and what their plan is. Right now, maybe they play different variations of AD carries, like no one is playing, for example, but Rex just did. There is like some already carries going to the meta right now as well, but for sure they don't play Syndra and Kalista. These are just examples that crippled them in draft. Of course, they also didn't play Yumi in last spring split playoffs, so I think there are ways that we can exploit them. But I do think they will perform better against us than against other teams because, of course, like you mentioned, there's a huge rivalry between us and them. For me, it's the Polish jungle self-made, super well every game. So I want to beat him, but I also want to win because it's Fnatic. And ever since I joined G2, I mean, in 2018 we were losing to them. Ever since they lose to us, after we took the star player. But throughout my career, I had my ups and downs, but mostly I was losing against Fnatic. So I'm very happy that this is like a period of my life where I'm just like beating them without dropping a game in this year so far. So yeah, I mean, I cannot wait for the game tomorrow, and I hope we can keep up the performance from today and even play better, right? Because this could not even be enough to beat them if they are at even 80% or 90% of how they used to be or how they are when they are actually trying hard. And I think they're also a team that picks up a lot when they are under stress and they are pressured. I think they players perform better under pressure. And just like a side thought, I don't think this would ever happen if you would play on stage. I think the bracket would look way different if you would actually play offline, but there's Corona around, and it is much safer for players and for everyone to play from home. I just hope that hopefully we can have playoffs offline. If not, I'm not really sure of how they will go, but I think if we'll have playoffs offline, I'm pretty sure Fnatic will be in the final.
All right, well, perfect. Thank you very much for joining me, Jankos, and
Thank you.
best of luck for the rest of the season.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.